Olajuwon, Christian life coach, founder of the Navigate Way. It's September. It's a new month. I'm very, very happy and grateful to the Lord to have been graced to be in September. It's been a year and a half for me. 2017 has been a defining year for me. So was 2016 and 2015 and etc. etc. But 2017, wow, because this is the year that I, for the first time in my life, can say I stepped in consciously, super consciously, into the call of God for my life for this season. I always say for this season because I believe in different seasons we might have different calls. I prepared something for you. Today, I want to talk about what God has placed on my heart for the month of September as we are stepping into the end of the year. It's the ember months. The last few months of the year 2017 is rolling to a close, and we can almost smell the end of 2017, right? We can almost smell the end of 2017, and we would like to end 2017 the way God originally designed for us to end it. I've called, and I'm going to be reading because I've written down what I want to say. I don't want to forget anything. I also don't want to be online for too long because I know it's your lunch times right now at work, but I hope that this is a really great way for you to fill your spaces during your lunch break. Okay, so I'm going to be reading. Please bear with me, but just take what I have to say. We're talking today about the war, the passions burning within you versus life's wet cloak that's quenching them. The passions burning within you versus life's wet cloak that's quenching those passions. Please share this video. It's the ember months of 2017. Who is winning the war? Happy New Month. Happy New Month. We are in the ember months of 2017, and I have a message on my heart for you. I want to ask you, who's winning the war in your life? The war between the passion that God placed inside you versus everything else in your life that is bent on killing that passion. Who's winning the war? We're about to close off 2017. So what is the close off of your 2017 looking like? I'll make this quick. I actually wrote down what I want to say verbatim so that I can get right into it. I don't want to miss out any part of this critical message. As you can see, I am reading everything. Since I was a child, I saw myself on a public platform. I used to close my eyes and I would actually get pictures. I used to see pictures of myself standing on a platform. And it was never really about the size of the platform or the crowd or the location, but it was always more about what I was doing on the platform. And what I was doing, when I closed my eyes and I saw these pictures, what I was doing was that I was standing on a platform and my eyes were raised to the heavens. I was basically always looking up and my hands were always lifted to the heavens. So it was really more about what I was doing on the platform than the fact that I was, it wasn't about a crowd or anything. It was always about what I was doing on the platform. And I just knew, it was always in my heart from when I was a child, that the Lord was going to place me on a platform. And my platform was going to be about Him. Now, in those pictures, I used to see myself singing. I love singing. I love music. But guys, I'm just not a singer. I'm still trusting God that God is going to do a mighty work in my life and do something about my voice, and I will be able to sing. Amen. Please pray with me. But in the meantime, I'm not a big singer, but I always just had this thing in my life that I knew that God had placed things inside me that He wanted me to say to the world. I felt He's placed messages inside me, and He wants me to speak those messages to the world on a platform. It's always something that I knew. So I knew what my platform was. This is from when I was a child. Now, because of what I like to call my roots and my routes, and you might have heard me speaking about my roots and my routes, because of my life experiences, certain passions started to grow within me. When I was in my late teens and early 20s, I became passionate about people. I became passionate about young people especially, and their choices on love, on relationships, on intimacy, on popular thought, on popular culture, on purity, on sex. These passions started to well up inside me, and it was totally linked to my personal life experiences in these areas. That was in my late teens, early 20s. And then as I got older, I had more experiences. And so in my mid-20s to early 30s, and I'm still in my early 30s, I'm just about to finish my early 30s, as the years went by, I now became more passionate about people in general. I became passionate about people who are being held back from being intimate with God and being in a relationship with God. And I became passionate about people who are struggling with that relationship and also struggling to be the people that God has called them to be, to look like what God has called them to look like, simply because of them responding to the brokenness that they see in their lives. and that they have experienced, or the brokenness that life has thrown at them. So people hang back from having a real relationship with God. They insist on ruling themselves. They insist on governing themselves. They live in guilt, pride, condemnation, brokenness, self-righteousness, powerlessness. They're hurting themselves. They're hurting others. And basically bad behavior, characteristics that are ungodly, even as Christians, but almost like justifying that behavior. I became passionate about people like that. What's more, many of these people, many of us are Christians. We find ourselves Christians. We're walking around as Christians, but we're walking around broken and totally not reflecting what God has made us into. So these were my passions. I've spoken about my platform that God had revealed to me from when I was a child. And as life started happening, as my roots and routes started unfolding, passions started to develop within me. And I believed that my platform was going to be a public one, to speak with people within my circles, outside of my circles, and sort of be somebody that provides solutions, that helps to fix this problem that I saw in the world. But these dreams, I found myself pushing them aside. As the very same life was happening, I found myself pushing these dreams far into the recesses of my life. Why? Because when I looked at my life, when I looked at the priorities that I had developed in my life and the choices that I had made and the things that had become important to me, the way in which my life was going, the personality that I had developed, the struggles, I found that, it just didn't feel like it was going to work out. These passions that I've always had in my heart and the platform that I always saw myself that I was going to operate from, the way my life was, it just felt like it was never going to happen. My life was not showing me a way to be the person that I used to believe with all my heart that God created me to be. And so I gave up on the idea. I actually did. I ended up just saying, you know what, this is a pipe dream. This is a child's dream. Get real. Get real. This is life. So get real. Get on with it. Get on with life. Life has dished you, certain tiles and certain cards. Just, roll with it. And so I found myself settling into the idea of just being whatever life dishes up. You take on the person that life dishes up, or you take on the character of what life dishes up to you. So if I went through painful situations, then I accepted that part of my identity was to be someone in pain. If I went through brokenness, if I went through situations that are about bitterness and anger and things like that, then I took that on as part of my identity. So you start to receive and take on the identity of what life dishes out at you. And then, of course, when life dishes out good things, because life does dish out good things, joy and happiness and family and things like that, then you also take that on. So, life dishes happiness, and then you take on happiness. And so, as a child of God, you end up with this identity. It's a mishmash of all sorts of things. If life gives you rotten apples, then you give rotten apples back at life. If life dishes you good apples, then you're like, hey, and so you're just this mishmash of this character of something, and you're like, and what I found was like none of this was leading me back to that passion that God had placed inside me from my childhood. Nothing was leading me back to figure out how am I going to express these passions that God has placed inside me through the platforms that He has made available to me. This was my life. This was my story. Now, in the work that I do now as a Christian life coach, I often speak with people about their life passions versus the growing fear that they have that none of it is ever going to materialize. So many people have these desires that have stirred in their hearts since they can remember. But when they look at the way their lives are turning out, they're like, there's no way that this is going to work. There's no way. It's not going to happen. I don't have the right qualifications. I don't have the right race. I don't have the right gender. I don't have the right background. I don't have the right life story. I don't have the right job or the right income or the right personality or the right connections. Either that or the identity that they have taken on in response to their life story and what I call your roots and route. That identity has just taken them on a complete, what we call in South Africa, short left. Complete short left. The identity that they've taken on has taken them on a completely different tangent. So what I wrote here is either that or the identity that they have taken on in response to the hard parts of their roots and route is literally suppressing their ability to step into a deep relationship with God and to step out and be all that God created them to be. This identity is suppressing their ability to rise and shine and be what God created them to be. It could be an identity of bitterness or brokenness or hurt or prejudice or unfaithfulness or lust or self-righteousness or being judgmental or being hateful or being a mixture of all of these things and more. The vast majority of people that I speak with as part of my work have this experience, and I know it's true. I know it's real for many people because I have also had it. I'm always speaking with people who have this experience. So I want to speak directly to you. Like I said, I don't want to speak for too long. And as you're watching this video, I ask you to please share the video because I really feel like there are people that need to hear this message as we're going into the month of September. And it's very much linked to a lot of things that I've been saying on this platform over the last few weeks. A few weeks back, I spoke about purpose versus calling. Last week, I spoke about he's been messing with my clapback. This all has to do with the same thing of who you are and who did God create you to be, and how is the person that you have chosen to be pushing back against what God created you to be and the works that God has created for you to do or planned for you to do from before time began. That's what this is about. Those are the things that God has been stirring in my heart, and that's what I would really. My prayer is that as we enter into the Ember months, that the Lord really speaks to you about this, and you experience a change, and you experience changes in your life. So let me speak directly to you. It's the Ember months of 2017. So what I've said today, am I speaking with you? Are you that with passions that God placed inside you, but your lifestyle and identity is pushing back at your unveiling? The things you have chosen to believe about yourself and about your life, those things are resisting your ability to come close to God and to know Him deeply and intimately. Those things are resisting your ability to live in the things that God has called you for and to work the works that God prepared for you to do from beforehand. Is there something that you feel that you were created for? Is there something you feel that you were created to do? Maybe there are things that go on in your family or in your neighborhood or in your community or in your nation, things that just break your heart. When you see these things happening or you hear these things happening, you just feel something inside you that tells you, there is a solution to this. I'm part of the solution. I need to do something about it. Those are passions. Those are passions. Do you have those things in your life, those passions in your life? But you're completely dissatisfied with life. You're completely disappointed because life is just not working out that way. There's nothing about the way your life has worked out that makes you feel you're actually going to be able to be the things that you used to think you were going to be and the things that God placed in your life to be. So are you now responding in disappointment? You're lashing out at the world. You're lashing out in anger. You're lashing out at your family. Or maybe you've just resolved that, you know what, that's a pipe dream. That's not for me. That's a child dream. So you know what, I'm just going to settle at being mediocre. I'm going to settle at just doing what life throws at me. I'm going to take life as it comes. I'm going to do my best and leave the rest. Sometimes you hear all of these things that sound good. Do your best and leave the rest. But really, are we not supposed to be pushing for the best, which is what God has planned for us? So maybe you no longer have a clue as to what you were created to do. Maybe that's actually your issue. Maybe you have even forgotten what those dreams were that you had as a child and those passions. Maybe you've forgotten. Maybe you actually just don't know what the so what of your life is. And you don't even have the guts to try to find out. If this is you, I want to ask you to own it now. If you have the guts to, please go ahead and type yes in the comment sections if you have the guts to. If not, that's fine. You can send me an email on thenarrowgateway@gmail.com, or you can just answer that question in your heart towards God. Because at the end of the day, this is between you and God. But make sure you engage on this question. Is this you? Are there passions that God has placed in your heart from when you were younger? Are there things that have risen up inside you, but you have somehow just given up on those things because the way life has worked out, it's just not going to happen. You feel it's just not going to happen. Or the identity and lifestyle that you have embraced as a result of your roots and routes, as a result of the things you've been through in life, that identity just grates against the things that God placed inside you. If that is you, number one, I'd ask you to own it. Now, these are the steps that God has taken me through and continues to take me through in addressing this, because like I started out by sharing with you my story. I started out by sharing with you that I have been through this and I continue to engage with God on these issues. So your number one step is this. Take a stance of surrender. And as you watch, make sure you share. And later on, I will put all of these steps and whatever key things I say, I'll put them in the comment section. So please, as you're watching, go to the comment section and see where I would have written about key things that I've spoken about. Number one, take a stance of surrender. Critical. You cannot run away from it. There's no getting around it. Everything flows from your stance of surrender before God. You did not create yourself, and you need to accept that. Many of us live as if we created ourselves, as if we have the blueprint for our lives, but we don't. Even if you're listening to me and you don't believe in God, you're listening to me and you don't believe in Jesus, you're listening to me and you believe in self-rule and self-governance. Well, you were created. The one who created you knows the plan that he has for your life. And the best plan, the best version for your life is in the knowledge of him. So you need to take a stance of surrender. God created you and he put glory inside you. He didn't create you to be mediocre. He put his own essence. The Bible says he created us in his own image and his likeness. He put his own essence inside of us. We were created to show forth his glory. And it's inside already. He didn't hide it inside. He put it inside. It's meant to show forth. So you need to take a stance of surrender to the one that put that glory inside you. Surrender to what he has been saying to you all along. And I say this on purpose because God is always speaking to us. Even if you don't believe, he's still speaking to you. He's sending you messages. He's sending you things. He's sending you signs to let you know, listen, I'm real and I'm here and I love you. I know you don't care about me. I know you don't care, but I still love you and I still want you because I know what I put inside you, and it has to come out because the world needs to see what I put inside you. And I want to see you shine as in what I put inside you. I want to see you shine. I want you to know me. God is always sending those messages to us, even to those of us that don't believe. Or even to those of us that do believe, but you know what? We just stop short at believing, and we're not bursting out into the fullness of what it is to be children of God. Surrender to what he has been saying to you all along, about who he is, about who you are, about how he just wants you to respond to his love, and quieten the noise in your life, and turn up the inputs in your life that to him. Surrender will bring you into closer intimacy with God, and that's where you need to start from. Now, number 2, from your place of surrender, your next step is this: confirm what you were created to do. Confirm what you were created to do, because you need to know. You need to know the so what of your life. You need to know. And who else is going to tell you but the one that created you? There's no getting around it. If you're listening to this, chances are God has already been speaking to you and telling you that he made you as a carrier of his glory, and he prepared works for you to do to bring solutions to the world. Even if you don't believe in God, he still speaks to you. You're not God. You're human. And I say that on purpose because you cannot determine for God how you want to come to him. It doesn't work like that. You're not God. He is God. He will tell you how he wants you to come to him. And that's very critical, because many of us say, hey, this is who I am, and God knows how I am, so this is how I'm going to come to God, and I'm not going to accept all that other stuff. No. If God said this is the best way I have prepared for you to come to me so you can experience the best of me, then we need to take him seriously. So come to God and confirm from him what he has actually called you to do. And that you do from your stance of surrender. Remember, that's number 1. You do that from your stance of surrender and your place of intimacy with God. So you can't get around it. When we're talking about purpose, when we're talking about calling, when we're talking about the passions that God has placed inside you, it's always linked to your relationship with him, because it's from that relationship that you discover great things, that you discover mysteries, that you discover impossibilities. It's from that place of intimacy with God. So you need to take your stance of surrender, and you need to confirm what he's planned for you. Now, I want to stress something. Sometimes we're beating ourselves over the head about this picture that we thought our lives was going to be about. We thought our lives was going to look like this. We'll have this profession. We'll have that job. We'll have that husband. We'll have that house. We'll travel in this way. We'll do X, Y, Z. And so you've been broken because life has not worked out the way you thought it would work out. But perhaps it's because you actually have not confirmed from God what his design for your life is. Maybe you've been barking up the wrong tree the whole time, but you don't know. I spoke to somebody recently who has a mind that, if I have this kind of occupation, if I have this kind of job, if I finished my schooling, etc., then my life would be good. And because I haven't achieved those things, now I'm miserable. And now this person is living a very bitter life and a very angry life. Why? Because they have this idea that this is what success looks like. This is what my life was meant to look like. And because my life doesn't look like that, I'm bitter, I'm angry, I'm lashing out at the world. And you're living a broken life because you are expecting something that was not necessarily God's plan for you. And you haven't taken the time to discover what that plan actually is. Critical. Number 2, confirm from the Lord, from your place of surrender, what his plan for your life is. And that we normally think is a complex thing, but it's actually not a complex thing because it flows naturally from relationship. It's like your partner in life, your husband or your wife. Because you're in close relationship, you all talk all the time. Because you talk all the time, you know what their plans are. They know what your plans are. The more you communicate, the more there's understanding from one another as to this is what you have in mind, this is what I have in mind. Let's move forward. That's your number 2. Number 3, very critical. Start thinking of your roots and routes differently. Your roots and routes, once again, it's your life story. It's your soul. It's what has gone on in your life. Many times we think of our roots and routes as something that we need to run away from, especially the sad parts of our roots and routes, the difficult parts of our roots and routes. We tend to feel like we have to run away from them. We have to forget them. But my experience has been that, yes, we live in a broken world and bad things do happen. And sometimes you wonder, God, why did these things happen? I can assure you, God did not cause the bad things that happened to you. But he loves us so much that even when bad things happen in our roots and routes, he takes our broken roots and routes and he makes them into incubators for great passions and great gifts and great skills and great talents and great platforms. Basically, he plants in our roots and routes the tools that we need to do the stuff that he created us to do. That's God. He's great. He's awesome. He didn't give us the bad roots and routes. He might have allowed them, but he didn't give them to us. But he planted in our roots and routes everything that we need to be the people he has called us to be and to do the works that he has called us to do. So you need to start thinking about your roots and routes differently. You need to start responding to your roots and routes differently. Because remember at the start, I said many of us respond to our roots and routes by doing what? By lashing back out at life. So life gives you anger. Life gives you angry circumstances that bring forth anger, and then you take on anger as your identity. Life brings forth circumstances of abandonment or pain or disappointment or brokenness or rejection, and then you take that on. In your anger at life, you become angry. In your bitterness at life, you become a bitter person. Of course, that's an identity and a lifestyle that God's purpose and passion for your life is not going to shine forth out of. So we need to start thinking of our roots and routes differently, and we need to start responding to our roots and routes differently, remembering that in those sour circumstances, God has actually planted gold. He has planted honor in our roots and routes. He has planted the tools to enable you to do the things that he has called you to do. So you need to start looking into your story. You need to look into your life story. That's why I share my life story. It's not always that easy for me to do that because there are people that know me that are listening or that listen, and that of course I have insecurities. What are they thinking? What are they saying? Last week I shared a Facebook Live where I spoke about stuff to do with growing up in Cape Town and racial issues that I dealt with and things like that. And, afterwards I spoke with my parents and I felt bad. I was like, I hope they don't feel bad hearing these things. You understand? I hope it's not making them feel like, oh my goodness, our baby and stuff like that. But the reality is that this is what God has called me to do. And yesterday, or was it 2 nights ago, I did a Facebook Live where I said, you need to live out loud. You need to let the world see the reality of your life, because they need to know that God is real. They need to know that your relationship with God is real. So don't just give people the highlights, and the high level pointers. Give people the fullness of the picture. When you're going through hard times and the Lord meets you where you're at. When you're feeling depressed and the Lord gives you just that word and lifts you out of it. When the Lord heals you and restores you, etc., etc., etc. You need to let the world know so that they can know that God is real. They can know that the relationship with God is real. I spoke about that. That's why I share semi-openly anyway about things in my life, and I encourage you to do the same. I encourage you to do the same because God has planted, you're a vessel of honor. God has planted glory in your life, and your story might just be the thing, your roots and routes might just be the thing that somebody needs to hear about to bring about a change in their life, for them to believe that this God, this Jesus is real. And when we say we have a relationship with God, it's not a pie in the sky. It's not in my mind. It's not a figment of my imagination. It's real. He has planted gold. Yes, Theodore, he has planted gold in your roots and routes. Yes, so you need to go in there. You need to go in there. You need to start thinking of your roots and routes differently, and you need to be responding to them differently. So I want to make sure I read what I wrote here. If life threw hate at you, why should you embody hate? That's not how God created you to be hateful. If life threw abandonment at you, or neglect or poverty, why should you receive it and embody it? If life threw prejudice at you, why should you receive it and embody it? Why should you take it on as your identity and also become prejudiced? In Christ, you're empowered to do the impossible. Sometimes people might hear this and be like, but I can't help it. Life has been so hard. I can't help but be angry. I can't help but be bitter. I can't help but have strife. I am telling you that in Christ, you're empowered to do the impossible. Perhaps everybody else out there cannot help but respond to rejection and anger and bitterness in being angry and bitter and rejected as well. But in Christ, you're enabled to do the impossible. You're enabled to respond to your life, to your roots and routes in power and in love and in healing, and to be a solution, enabled to be a solution to the very circumstances that were thrown at you to break you. Because remember, God plants the tools for us to break forth into his calling on our life. He plants them in our roots and routes, especially in our most broken roots and routes. When you key into that power to do the impossible, that is you keying into God's plan and calling on your life. You want to know what God has called you to do? You want to know the tools that he has made available for you? From your place of surrender to the Lord, listen to your life. Allow God to enable you to respond impossibly to your life. Respond impossibly to your life. So that's number 3. That's step 3 in winning the war between the passions God has placed in your life and the cloak of life that is trying to quench that passion. Number 4, keep doing it and don't give up. Keep doing it and don't give up. And when I say this, it's so personal for me because I am on this journey. And sometimes I say to myself, Toyin, you're saying all of these things. What if tomorrow, you just find yourself in another space and you're falling and you're messing up and things are just not going well and you're not looking like the person that you're speaking about that people need to be. It's scary. I promise you, it's scary. But I've had some experiences where God has just said to me, Toyin, I made you. You're my daughter. You're the daughter of the Most High. You're a warrior. You're a warrior. I have made you. I have placed these things inside you. I placed them inside you. You didn't conjure them up for yourself. And I am the one that enables you to be everything that you've called me to be. Just remain in that place of surrender. Just maintain your stance of surrender. That's all you need to do. Don't worry about, will I fail? Will I fall? Will I mess up? Will this work? Will this be sustained? I can't, if I thought like that, I will never be doing the things that I'm doing right now. I wouldn't because I'll be too scared of shame. I'll be too scared of what people will say. But every day the Lord encourages me to think about my life and to think about the work that I'm doing from the point of view of Toyin. All you need to do is stay in your stance of surrender. So you keep doing it. That's number 4. Keep doing it. And it's the last one. Keep doing it. Don't give up. This is a life journey. The more you remain in your stance of surrender, the more clarity you will have about what your life is meant to be about, and the less restrained you will be from living it out. I want to repeat that. This is a life journey. But the more you remain in your stance of surrender, the more clarity you will have about what your life is meant to be about, and the less restrained you will be from living it out. Your stance of surrender is your stance of surrender before the Lord. I hope that is clear. When you are surrendered to God, he pieces through the broken places in your life and he heals them. He transforms you and he gives you that identity that he created you to have. He helps you to do the impossible. So the impossible is to respond to the bitterness that life throws at you, to respond impossibly by fixing that place of bitterness as opposed to responding and taking on that bitterness. The identity where you respond in power and love and wholeness and healing to whatever you experience in life. That is the identity that Christ has for you. Now, not every day will be hunky-dory. Not every day will be sunshine and moonshine and roses and petals and whatnot. Some days you might find yourself feeling like you're regressing backwards to the lifestyle and identity that you used to have, to the place where you used to be ruled by what life threw at you and used to take on the nature of what life throws at you. But if you keep your stance of surrender before the Lord, he will continue to work in you to enable you to bring forth what he himself placed inside of you. So keep at it and don't give up. I've given you 4 nuggets to win this war. The passions burning within you versus life's red cloak trying to quench those passions. Number 1 was take a stance of surrender before the Lord. Number 2, from your place of surrender, confirm what your soul what actually is from God. Find out from God, what is it actually that he planned for you to do? It's natural. It's a natural result of a relationship with God for you to know the things he has called you to do. It's a natural result of your relationship. 3, start thinking of your roots and routes differently and respond to them differently. God has placed every tool that you need to be the person that he has called you to be and to do the things he has called you to. He has placed all your tools within your roots and routes, especially within the tough roots and routes. That's your life experience. So start thinking of your roots and routes differently and start responding to your roots and routes differently. Number 4, keep doing it. Don't give up. It will not always be hunky-dory, but God will always, he'll never give up on you. He didn't give up on you when you hated him. He didn't give up on you when you were not interested in him. I know that from experience. He didn't give up on you when you were messing up and you knew you were messing up and you just didn't bother to care, right? He didn't give up on you then. He's not going to give up on you now in this lifetime. Okay, so those are number 4. Those are 4 things. Now, let me end by saying this. For me, my change began when I started to take my stance of surrender. God told me to sanctify myself. That is to set myself apart and to shut out the voices and inputs and exposures in my life that were telling me who I was and who I could never be. What is it in your life that is telling you who you are and who you can never be? Is it what you watch on TV? Is it the social media, the celebrities that you follow? Is it people in your life, relationships? Is it your past, your roots and routes, and you're responding to it by saying, well, I can never be this person that I need to be in order to fulfill the passions that God has placed inside of me? For me, the Lord said to me, Toyin, sanctify yourself and shut down those voices. And I want you to now listen to me only. And I went through, and it happens often. It wasn't a once-off thing. There are many times in my life when God is about to do something big and move me into a different space in my life, that he tells me, sanctify yourself. Because remember, it's all coming from a place of surrender, your stance of surrender. In that place, you can hear him clearly. You are taking on the identity that he has created for you. Sorry, my phone is ringing. I told you I was reading from my phone. But yeah, that's how it happens when you're alive. For me, my change began when I started to take my stance of surrender. God told me to sanctify myself, that is to set myself apart. Let me put my phone on mute, just in case the person calls me back. So God told me to shut off the voices and inputs and exposures in my life that were telling me who I was and who I could never be. And God told me to amplify the voices in my life that set my heart on knowing him better and loving him more. Now, out of that place of surrender, my healing began and my healing continues. And I always know when I'm out of my place of surrender because I feel broken again. I feel, unable again. I feel disconnected. I feel like I'm striving yet again. I always know when I'm out of my place of surrender, and so that's the key. You stay in your place of surrender, and that's my story. The more I heal, the more I'm able to cast my eyes at my roots and routes, and I understand much more why God allowed me to experience the things that I have experienced, the good and the bad. I understand much more what he has placed in my life as tools for what he created me to be and to do. And almost naturally, I find that the more I'm in the place of surrender, the more I am able to shine out more and more and to be bold and to take risks and to do the things that he has called me to do. It's a life journey. And I'm still very much at it. So if this was for you, you would know. If what I spoke about today was for you, you would know because God has already been speaking to you. I'm not God. I'm just speaking the things that he said I should speak. So he would have already been saying stuff to you. Even if you're not a believer in Jesus Christ, doesn't mean I'm not speaking to you. I am speaking to you. I am speaking to you, even if you don't believe. God speaks to you, even if you don't believe, because he loves you. The Bible says he leaves the 99 of us, those of us that believe in him. He says, okay, you guys, you believe, cool, continue to do the things I've told you to. Guess what he does? He goes after the one that doesn't believe. That's what the Bible says. He's all about those who do not believe. He loves each and every one of us and he has placed glory inside of us. So if you don't believe, this is still for you. I pray that you apply these things that I've spoken about over the next few months so that as you end 2017, you're winning the war between the passions that God has placed inside you and life's wet cloak that's trying to quench those passions and make sure that you never live the life that God called you to live. I pray that you end 2017 living and walking in God's calling on your life because the world needs you to shine forth. The world needs your version of God's glory. The world needs it. God put it inside you, so the world needs to see it. The world needs it. I pray that you end 2017 living and walking in God's calling on your life. I pray that you end 2017 breaking through that place of responding to the roots and routes of your life by clapping back, as I spoke about last week, or by taking on the character that life threw at you. Life throws anger at you, you take it on and you throw it right back. That you end 2017 overcoming that trait, and rather you're defined by the identity that God gave to you and that God placed inside you. I'm going to end there. I am Toyin Olajiro, fully convicted by my own words and very much still under construction in the hands of the Father. Thank you so much for listening. I want to end off. I think that must be the third time I'm saying I want to end off. I want to end off by saying the concept that I've spoken about today, the things I've spoken about today are all part of the Boom Walk program. They're